Best Friends, Stories and Pictures by Stephen Kellogg. This is a Reading Rainbow book, if you remember that program. For Emily and Amy with love. Louise Jenkins and I love horses, but we aren't allowed to have real ones. I said, let's pretend that a stallion named Golden Silverwind lives in a stable between our houses. Louise loved the idea. At school, we pushed our desks together, and we played on the same team. At lunch, we shared our chocolate milk. Chocolate is Louise's favorite, and it's mine, too. After school, we pretend that we rode Golden Silverwind. Our magic witch hats gave us the power to make our neighborhood anything we wanted it to be. And after dark, when it seemed to be haunted, we weren't scared as long as we were together. We were best friends. Summer came, and so did Louise's aunt and uncle. They took her to a mountain resort for vacation, and Louise told me that she didn't want to go. "It'll be awful," she said, "and I'll miss you every day." When she left, our neighborhood turned into a lonely desert. If only Louise would be able to escape. I even wished she'd get a contagious disease so that they'd have to let her come home. I wouldn't be afraid of catching it. I'd nurse her back to health with chocolate milk. I missed her so much. I wish that Golden Silverwind and I could rescue her. And finally, I got a postcard. It said, "Dear Kathy, this place is terrific. Yesterday I saw 3 deer behind the lodge. There are lots of kids my age, and Aunt Pat and Uncle Bart take us camping on Pinecone Peak. I hope you're having fun too. Love, your friend, Louise." Later, I heard Mrs. Jenkins say that Louise had made lots of new friends and was having the best summer of her life. It wasn't fair. She wasn't lonely like me. She wasn't missing me at all. Louise Jenkins was a traitor. She was my worst friend. I wish that a volcanic eruption would blast Pinecone Peak into pebbles. Mom told me not to be jealous of Louise's new friends. Later, she said, "I heard that the house across the street has been sold. Maybe there'll be someone your age in the new family." I prayed for 50 kids my age, 50 new best friends with real horses. When the movie man came, I asked, "How many people in the new family?" He said, "1. I asked if it was someone my age, and he said, "Nope, it's Mr. Jode. He's 72. This is the worst summer of my life. The new family was one old man. Mom said we should be good neighbors, and she sent me to invite Mr. Jode for a cookout. When he saw my witch hat, he said, "I wish you'd use your magic powers to help me find good homes for the new puppies that Sarah's expecting." I ran home to ask Mom if I could have one, and she said yes. I couldn't wait to have a puppy of my own. And if Louise Jenkins wants to play with it after she got back from Pinecone Peak, I'd say never. That would fix her. Mr. Jode and I talked about how much fun it would be when the puppies were born. I told him I wanted a spotted one just like Sarah. "The first spotted one will be yours," he promised. One day, Mrs. Jenkins showed up and said, "I understand that your dog is expecting puppies. I'd like to reserve one for my daughter, Louise. I couldn't stand to think of Louise having one of Sarah's puppies. I told Mr. Joad that I would keep them all. Mr. Joad said, 3 years ago, Sarah had 8 puppies in one litter. Would your mother want that many dogs? I had to admit that 8 dogs would drive my mom crazy. Mr. Joad asked me if I was afraid that Louise wouldn't give her puppy a good home. And I had to admit that she would. A week later, Louise came back. Her mother had already told her that we were both getting puppies, and she was all excited about us raising them together. Next, she started talking about all the campouts on Pinecone Peak and how her uncle and aunt had already planned a return trip for the following summer. I pretended to be very interested in my book. And then she told me that she was glad to be home and that she had missed me very much. She had brought me a red Pinecone Peak sweatshirt and a sparrow feather and a rock collection and a whistle on a lanyard that she had woven herself. I told her how much I'd missed her, but I didn't tell her how mad I'd been. I took Louise to meet my new friend. I knew that they would all like each other, and they did. I said, "Aren't Sarah's spots beautiful? I'm going to get the first puppy that looks like her." A few nights later, Mr. Joad called to say that Sarah was having her puppies. And by the time we arrived, one puppy had already been born. It was brown. Mr. Joad handed him to Louise, saying, "When he grows up, he'll look just like Sarah's mother." Sarah went to sleep, and Mr. Joad and Louise made hot chocolate, and I tried to think of a name for her puppy. I couldn't wait for mine to be born. Sarah slept for hours, and finally Mr. Joad said, "It looks like there's only one puppy this time. Sarah's never had such a small litter before." I felt awful. It wasn't fair. Louise got to spend the whole summer camping on Pinecone Peak, and now she had Sarah's only puppy. Louise said, "I think the brown puppy should belong to both of us. We could name him Golden Silverwind." Mr. Joad said, "I'll build him a doghouse between your houses, and Sarah and I will help with his training." When I got home, I kept thinking about how lucky I was to have a special friend like Louise. I was already worried about how much I would miss her when she went away next summer. But at least this time, when she's camping on Pinecone Peak, I'll have Golden Silverwind all to myself. Good night. I love you.